Chag Sameach, happy festival days, however you want to call that. Pray you guys are off to a great start as we enter into the fall festivals. We went out to some friends' house last night, a number of us gathered, and I have to tell you the greatest thing about this for me is that watching our two of our grandsons, and a friend of ours, grandsons, with their shofars. They're brand new shofars that they've just learned how to blow at some level of expertise. The oldest one did pretty good, but it was fascinating to watch them to experience that, and it just, I guess what is so great to me is to watch our children, our grandchildren that are growing up, and this is their norm. This is what is is normal to them. They're not looking forward to the that holiday of October 31st or into the other things that we have the end of the year. But they're looking forward to the festivals. They're learning them, and this is going to be the foundation of their lives entering into, possibly even entering into the kingdom and being that first. And this intrigues me. This thought intrigues me. Do I understand it all? No, but to be that first generation that is raised in the kingdom. What an amazing honor that would be, just to be able to watch that. Okay, so before we get in the Torah portion, of course, we have the 20th anniversary of 9/11 that is going to be on this Shabbat. And I know that in the coming days, that is probably going to be through social media, a frenzy of conspiracy theories, and we all have our thoughts on that. There's television programs that are being, documentaries and everything. I'm not going to get into the conspiracies regarding that. I have my own feelings, my own beliefs on the whole situation. But the truth is that people died. We probably all remember where we were on that day. I was in Colorado. I remember standing there. I was working on a stairway going up to above a garage, and to turn around and see the television and to watch what happened there, the unneeded death that was on that day and continues to be today. So no matter, let's put the conspiracy theories and confusion and discussions. Let's kind of set that aside for a little bit, and just consider that this is a day that we live in, a day that is death, a day that is wars and rumors of wars. I just taught a message, and a shameless plug here in the words of Brad Scott. It's available on our website. You can go there. I can send it to you in CD or MP3. And it's called "Give Us This Day." Kind of a strange title for a message that is on Matthew chapter 24 specifically. I bring in some things of Matthew chapter 10. I just give you the words of my wife. She said, "It's about time you said this." So be glad to send that to you. You can go to our website. Donations are appreciated, of course, but we'll send it to anybody for, we try to never make this thing about the funding, okay? The Father takes care of that. Let's get into the Torah portion. We're coming up on the end, and I'm going to be taking these 3 weeks and going through the 3 Torah portions specifically, and then we're going to turn back once again, and we're going to start all over, because there's probably something in this year that we missed, right? So we're going to see if we can find something that is marked for us in the coming year that the Father has to reveal, that is hidden, has been hidden from us up until this point in time. I find this Torah portion interesting, the way that it starts out. Moshe went and spoke the following words to all of Israel. I'm 120 years old today, and I can't get around any longer. Really? Okay. You're 120. I got that part. And come on, Moshe. In just a few days from now, we're going to read how he climbs a mountain. And this is not just like, kind of the mountains here around where I live in North Carolina. This is the desert mountains. I've actually been there. I've gone up, and we came around through Jordan, and we went to that mountain where Moshe is buried. We don't know where. I think that was a very wise move on the Creator's part, is that he never told anybody where Moshe was buried, so they would not make a shrine and worship it at some point in time. I remember going there and then getting in an air-conditioned bus and driving down the side of that mountain and back to the Ardennes River. I cannot imagine at where I am in life today, walking up that mountain, especially not at 120. I mean, for Moshe makes me middle-aged, which is really kind of cool. But I cannot imagine walking up there. And so he says, I can't get around any longer. Well, the wording here is I can't go out, and I can't, and here's the word bow, or come in. And this would remind us, of course, of a Torah portion that began, when Moshe is just a young whippersnapper, about 80 years old, as he is told to go to bow into the presence of Pharaoh. And so the commentators, and I tend to go along with this totally, is that Moshe is not speaking of his physical being here, but more of his spiritual being. Moshe's life has been an interesting one, to say the least. 40 years on the backside of the desert, learning how to pastor. Learning how to pastor through the pastoring of a flock of sheep. I feel like that's a great training ground. It really is. I know just enough about sheep to understand that a shepherd in a field with sheep is very similar, very, very similar in so many ways to a flock, if you would, of sheep of a congregation. So Moshe spent that time in training. He then goes into the presence of the Pharaoh, leads the people out of Egypt. His life has been one of continual challenges, not just on a physical sense, but on the spiritual side. He has had to go through issues with his siblings, not to mention Pharaoh himself, Egypt. He's had to deal with Amalek and Moab, and he's had to deal with Korah and the golden calf and the 10 spies and all of these things. What I see in these words is that Moshe is spiritually exhausted. He's come to a place that he can no longer find inside of him the energy to press forward. And because of this, a great gift that the Father has given to him is that he will not be entering into the land at that time. Yeah, I know it's, there's mixed emotions going on with him, but I think that if you were to talk to this man, be able to sit down and talk with him about this time, he would say, I know that striking the rock the second time was not the right thing to do. But in the end, there had to be something that was going to take me out of this picture so that someone else could come into this. We could say it like this. Moshe understood, my job is done. My job is done. He's as in the words of Shul, he had run his race. He has finished his course. And this would be like a marathon runner who completes a marathon, which I never have really understood why people do that, but that's just other people. A person that completes a marathon, wins the marathon, gets the trophy, and then says, well, I just want to keep running for a while. What is the goal there? You've reached the goal. Now it's just kind of for what purpose? Okay, so Moshe comes to a place of saying, I'm done. This is over for me, and we then enter into this transition time, going down to verse 6, that Yah will speak over the Hebrews and telling them, first of all, be strong, be bold, and don't be afraid or frightened of them. So these words, and I'm kind of known for a few things in life. One of them is that I finished this program with the words "be strong." That's not just to fill air, okay? The things that I say toward the end of my program of Bezrat, see you again next week, Bezrat Hashem, because those words of Yah willing. Okay, I'm very cognizant of those words. To wish you Shabbat Shalom, Shavua Tov, that you would have a wonderful Shabbat, a blessed and prosperous week. That's not just filling air. And then at the end, be strong, because we need to be reminded on a weekly basis of being strong, because let's face it, most of us aren't. Okay. You may. I love the old song by Rich Mullins. We're not as strong as we think we are. Sometimes we get this attitude of strength, and then have to get into the real war. It's like going through basic training, and in your advanced training, and all of those things that you might have done if you were in the military. You get through all that, and it's like, yeah, I got this. And then it's the real thing. It's years ago when I went through air traffic control school, and it was fun. I mean, it was hard, yes. It was great. I loved the experience, but the first time that I picked up the microphone and I was the one in charge, that was a reality that sunk in, and it's like, am I really prepared for this moment? So Yah says to the people that they need to be strong, and it says, and don't be afraid or frightened of their faces. Okay, it's panim there. Look this up. Don't be afraid of their faces. I remember watching the first time, and I actually got to see some of this firsthand in Hawaii a few years ago when Kathy and I were able to go, that the Maoris from New Zealand, they have this thing this war dance that they do. And if anybody's ever watched fake football, which is soccer, the Maori, the blacks, I think it is, of New Zealand, they actually come on the field and they're doing this Maori war dance. And it's, it kind of just there in Hawaii and, sipping on something with an umbrella in it, and you're watching this, it's kind of sending chills through your body, because you're looking at the faces of these people. And it was there was no fear, but you could see how if these people were mad at you, it wasn't going to be a good day. And so when the Hebrews entered into Canaan, they had heard, they've been told about all of these enemies that they're going to see. But there's a difference between studying war and being in war. There's a difference between sitting in a classroom and reading it in a book and actually having the weapons in your hands with someone trying to come after you. You look at their face and you see the face of war. They had not seen that face. And so he says to them, don't be frightened of their faces. In fact, I think that's a great word for us today. Let me say it like this. We have a choice today of whose face to focus on. We can focus on the face of world events, current events, the affairs of mankind, or we can focus on his face. Which one are you going to focus on? I believe that the one that we focus on, the face we focus on, will have a direct impact on our own personal outcome regarding the time that looks like is before us. Now, it goes on and talks about that Moshe summoned Yehoshua in the sight of all of Israel and said to him specifically, and these are going to be words that are going to be spoken of over Yehoshua numerous times in Scripture, not only by Moshe himself. We will see that these words are spoken by the Almighty to Joshua. We will see that these words are spoken by the congregation to Joshua. This is all under the direction of the Ruach HaKodesh. So why is it that the words "be strong, be of good courage" are spoken so many times over Joshua? Is it possible that he wasn't in his natural being, in his very basic makeup of life, his core? Is it possible that he wasn't really a man of great strength and courage? And it's something that he had to find within himself. It was there. It was placed there by the Creator. But he may have been, I'm just kind of speculating here, he may have been a man that was pretty unsure of himself. To be in the second fiddle, playing second fiddle to Moshe all of his life. This is really, for Yehoshua, this is all that he knows, is being Moshe's right-hand man. And he sees what Moshe's been through, okay? He knows this man Moshe at a level of a confidant. I see Moshe actually sitting down with Joshua and sharing some of his deepest emotions and feelings with him. And so it would be only right that Joshua would probably sit back at times and think, am I really able to do this? Can I take this people who has been pretty difficult to deal with all these 40 years, can I take them to the next step? Well, we go over to Joshua, the book of Joshua, chapter 1, verse 6. And again, he's told, "Be strong, be bold, for I will cause this people to inherit the land I swore to their fathers I would give them. Only be strong, be very bold in taking care to follow all the Torah of which Moshe my servant ordered you to follow. Do not turn from it either to the right or to the left. Then you will succeed wherever you go." And it goes on from there. I challenge you, continue to read this on your own. These words, by the way, are where I kind of coined this phrase of being Torah pursuant instead of Torah observant, being a person that pursues the Torah, because it says that be bold in taking care to follow all the Torah. So consider that there is an aspect of the Torah that is not only in your present day, but is already in the future, and you're following it, you're pursuing it, you're going after it, and as you do, it's leading you one step by step closer to the fullness of the promises of the Almighty. We go over to Yehoshua chapter 5, and we see this encounter between the one that is the commander. And it says in verse 14, "No," he replied, and you know that probably most of you know the Joshua's out taking a little walk, finds this person, and he says, "I am the commander of Yahweh's army. I have come just now." Joshua fell down with his face on the ground and worshipped him, then asked, now consider this, consider the thought here, that we are not to worship another man. And in the book of Revelation, the angels that are there, when Yochanan falls at their feet to worship them, it's like, no, I'm not the one you should be worshiping. So if this is just an angel, okay, regular old everyday angel, then he would have said to Yehoshua, no, I'm not the one you are to be worshiping. So the fact that he received that worship tells me that this is a precarnate manifestation of Yeshua, Yud-He Vav-He, in the flesh. He fell down at his feet. What does my Adonai have to say to his servant? The commander of Yahweh's army answered Yehoshua, "Take your sandals off your feet, because the place where you are standing is holy." And Yehoshua did so. So this is, we could say this is Yehoshua's burning bush experience. Okay, take your shoes off. If there's ever a story that Yehoshua has probably heard numerous times as he's following Moshe around the camp, they walk by someone's camp. The people that are, that are in that tent, that family, motion for Moshe to come over. I see this as happening. I don't see this stagnant kind of thing out there. So I see that Moshe's walking around. He's mingling with the people. Maybe somebody, motions him to come over to their tent. They're sitting there, having a cup of whatever they had in that day. And there's some young children there, and the mom, the dad say to Moshe, "Could you tell our children about the day of the burning bush?" And so Joshua, sitting there, would have probably heard this story over and over and over again, and the words, "Take off your shoes or your sandals, because the ground you're standing on is holy." So Joshua understands, I think, that he has now been brought to the same place as Moshe was as far as his commissioning. Now, let's consider this for a moment. Could this have played out just as easily that Moshe would have taken the people into the land? Of course it could have. But the Father has, within the words of Scripture, he has pictures. And these pictures paint us a scenario for his plan of the ages and his plan for that day and for our day. So the transferring of the leadership of Moshe to Yehoshua, and then Yehoshua coming face to face with who I believe is the Torah made flesh, the Word made flesh that would dwell among us, which John would speak of. This is the same one. Okay, this is the same one that is standing before Yehoshua, the Word that's made flesh. So here's the painting that is coming from this, that Moshe embodies the written Torah, the words of the written Torah, the black ink on the white page. Now, Paul would go on to tell us later on that the word kills, but the Spirit brings life. I think that has been mistranslated by or not mistranslated, but misunderstood. That what was Shaul saying? Was he saying that the Torah was bad and that it should be done away with? Well, in Romans chapter 3, he says, heaven forbid that should happen. And he actually goes, I talked about this, of the words of Devarim chapter 28, and how it says, a curse on anyone who does not confirm the words of this Torah by putting them into practice. And then Shaul in Romans chapter 3 would pick up that same theme. So this is not saying that the Torah is death, but if we look at the Torah as just rules and regulations of black ink on white paper, we're not going to find the life that is there. If we don't find life, the other side of that, if you have a coin and one side is life and the other side is death, if you don't find the side of life, you've found the side of death. So there is a way to study and to even practice the words of the Torah, but never find life. I dare say that there will be many people in Judaism, in Hebrew roots communities, in Messianic congregations, whatever, because people are people that will go through the fall festivals but never find any life. It will just be a simple act of going through the motions of it. Sukkot will become a party. There will be, it will be a social activity. It will be basically, the same as going to the garden club or something, and walking out and going, well, we had a great time. I have no idea what happens at a garden club. Okay, I've never been to one, and that just came out. So bear with me, as I think in different ways, but so sometimes I just don't know where this stuff comes from. So here we are back on this. The Torah, the letter of the word cannot bring forth life, but when we see Messiah in the Torah, we have brought forth spirit and truth together as one, and when spirit and truth come together, what do we have? We have life that is there. And so it's not that Moshe, though his body is being buried, his spirit, the very essence of who Moshe is still very much attached to these words of bringing them forth and making them a reality for the Hebrews to follow. Yehoshua, on the other hand, will be the one that will have the encounter with the living Torah, and then will take them into the land. Let's look at it this way, to be a little bit United States centric here, and maybe put into current events. Okay, we've all watched. I would imagine we've all watched the stuff that's going on in Afghanistan, and probably your anger is somewhere pretty high on what went on there. Let's just say that someone who is walking around in Afghanistan has somehow figured out they've been taught the English language somehow. They're living out the life of whatever Afghanistan is today and is going to be. They find, in rummaging around, trying to find some things, rummaging around somewhere, they find a copy of the United States Constitution that some soldier, left behind in his stuff, in her stuff. And so they get this copy of the Constitution and they begin to read it. It is to them a remarkable document. It's a document that they can kind of dream of, that they can consider a life that would be regarding, within the words of this document. People say that the Constitution is the greatest document ever. No, I have to disagree with that. This is the greatest document ever. The Constitution's not bad, not a bad one, but it's the man-made side, okay? Nothing compares or competes with this document. So they start to kind of, study this document a little bit and dream of a life. But can they really find life? That document cannot give life, because that document is, first of all, not written to them. They're an Afghani citizen. They're not a citizen of the United States. So that document, though they can dream about how wonderful that document would be, they cannot take ownership of that document really in any way, because they don't have citizenship to the kingdom of that document. Following me? Let's say that somehow they're able to, through correspondence of someone, find a way to become a citizen. Okay, but they're still in Afghanistan. But they, I guess through online correspondence courses, I don't know, they somehow figure out a way and are able to get a citizenship to the United States, but they're still in Afghanistan. Is there a level of the Constitution that they can live in? Yeah. Could they begin to raise their family in a way that is in accordance with that document? Yeah. But can they enjoy the fullness of what that document contains? The laws, the rulings, the rights, the privileges, the judgments, all of those things that make that document what it is. Can they really enjoy the fullness of that document? The answer is no. The only way that they can enjoy the fullness of the document is to enter into the land of the document. You're probably following me by this time. That for many of us, this is to me a picture of sitting in my denominational church, considering myself as a Southern Baptist, Charismatic, Pentecostal, waiting for the rapture to happen, all those things, and really not understanding. And then all of a sudden, someone beginning to teach me and for me to start studying the Torah, to start looking at it and say, wait a minute, 7 is still 7, and 7 never changed to 1, and who changed the definition of food, and what about these festivals, and what about all of these things that are written here? But yet it was still a little bit foreign to me. I saw the benefits of the document called the Torah. I saw the wonders of it, but yet it was still, I'm not quite sure, how do I put this into my life? Because I'm not Jewish. I'm not an Israeli or whatever. And then you go back to the words of Ephesians chapter 2 and the words of Romans, and you start considering that you're grafted in, you're adopted. And then I see the words of Isaiah chapter 56, and all of a sudden, wait a minute, this is, I've now become a citizen. These are words not to a people that is a different people, but these are actually words that are written to me. But yet, I'm still in Afghanistan. Okay? I understand my citizenship today. I understand what kingdom to pledge allegiance to. I use those words specific on purpose. I understand what kingdom to pledge allegiance to. I understand the wonders of this document, of things like the Shemitah. I begin to see that, and the forgiving of debts at the end of the 7th year, and going on from there, and how the wonders of that would be, the incredible Shabbat that He has given to us, and it just continues to grow and to grow and to grow. But yet you're still in Afghanistan. You're still in exile. But then there's that day that a plane comes for you. You're loaded up on that plane. It comes from the sky, from the heavens. All right, little Rosh Hashanah Yom Teruah idiom here. Okay, there's a plane that comes from the heavens with a mighty sound, and it catches you up into the air and takes you across an ocean and lands you in the United States. You have your Constitution. You have your document that you found somewhere. You have that document that you wanted so much to accept as yours, that you did everything that you possibly could to figure out a way to become united with that document. But yet, you were still in exile. And then the day comes that you can now, the document and the one who has written the document, then unites you with the land of the document. That, ladies and gentlemen, is a picture of the kingdom to come. It's a picture of where we are today and where we're going, and may it be soon and in our day. I need to move on. In verse 10, it speaks of, at the end of every 7th year during the festival of Sukkot, in the year of the Shemitah, when all Israel has come to appear in His presence, you are to read this Torah before all Israel. Understanding that, I take this for granted. Okay? Just repent. I take this for granted. I may honor it in ways, but I take for granted the fact that I can open up this word any day of my life and I can read it. I can study it. I can allow it to become a part of me. I can obey to a certain place the words of this scripture. They didn't have that. Okay, not everybody had their own Torah scroll. So what were they to do? In order for them to remain connected with the Torah, they're in the land, but if you do not have the Torah, you will disconnect from the land. I could go a lot of places there. Without the Torah, you will never be totally connected with the land. Let me explain it like this. Many years ago, a friend of mine in Israel, this was during the Oslo War, the Intifada, a friend of mine said to me in a kind of a private conversation, you don't know who this is, I have numerous friends in Israel. He said, we understand the days that we're in, this is during the Intifada, that there were very few tourists there in the land. And they said, we understand the difference in tourists. Said there are those that they come, they want to give their blessing, they want to see the land, but then they go home. They said, but then there's another group. There's a group that comes and wants to see the land and bless and all of those things and be a part. But their love for the land and the people is based not on anything political or someone kind of said, well, it's the right thing to do, but they found their love for Israel and the people of Israel, the Jewish people specifically, is what they were talking about. They found that love within the words of the Torah. They said, we know in the end who will stand with us and who will not. It will be those who found their love for us and for this land in the words of the Torah. If you don't find your love for the land, the love for the people of the land within the pages of this book, when times get difficult, you'll walk away. You'll walk away. Find your love here, okay? So they were to, every 7 years, they were to read the Torah, and it says in English, this Torah, that's the word that's stuck in there. So the words is Devar Torah, and the question was asking me a couple weeks ago by someone, is that because this is the Shemitah, as far as we know, all right, this is a Shemitah year. We're coming together on Sukkot. So is this, what does it mean, the Torah? Okay, is it that we're to read in that time period of Sukkot? Are we to read the 10 words, the 10 commandments? Well, that'd be easy. Are we to read the whole Torah? Okay, that'd be challenging, but I know that there are Sukkots that do that. Or are we to read the words of Devarim? Oh, there's all kinds of opinions on this one. Okay, I would challenge you. I would challenge you to pray about this and to consider it, that during this Sukkot, no matter if you're with hundreds of people or by yourself, that you figure out what those words mean to you. Now, I'll tell you this, I would rather have someone read the words of Exodus chapter 20, the 10 Commandments, slowly, methodically, with intent, than speed read the whole Torah from Genesis to the end of Deuteronomy. I think it would be much greater for you to read just those few verses and truly get something out of it than to read the whole thing and get nothing out of it. Maybe you want to take it as Devarim, the book of Deuteronomy. Leave that up to you. But here's a commandment, and I know that we just went through Devarim. We're going through it right now. We're going to finish it up, a couple of weeks. I got that. But is there something that is there for Sukkot and that you're only going to find during Sukkot as you read it? I'll just leave that with you, okay? It goes on and talks about when, and Moshe's got this down, okay? They're going to enter the land and they're going to mess up, all right? There's going to be calamity, all kinds of things that's going to be coming upon them. And he says in verse 17 that then my anger will flare up and I will abandon them and hide my face from them. Hide my face from them. Is he, let's look at it this way. He's hiding his face, but he's watching. I could actually go to the Hebrew word there. Let you guys maybe look at this on your own. It is Samek Tav Resh. There is an aspect of though he's hiding his face, he can still see you. The head of the mark is still looking upon you. It would be like a sniper looking from a distance. His face is hidden from you, but he can see you. There's not a time that it's not that he's turned totally away from us, but because of the things that have been done, he has to withdraw himself from us. Those are words of Hosea also. The word is then given to Yehoshua specifically of be strong. It says that Yud-Heh Vav-Heh also commissioned Yehoshua, be strong and of good courage, for you are to bring the people of Israel into the land which I have swore to them, and I will be with you. One of the last things, a couple minutes here. Moshe kept writing the words of this Torah in a book until he was done. He finished it, gave it to the Levites, and he says, take this book of the Torah and put it next to the ark with the covenant of Yud-Heh-Vav your Elohim. So again, what is it that's next to? Okay, we could discuss that for a long time. Really, in the end, we don't know. We know that the 10 words are in the ark, but then is it the rest of the Torah? Is it the words of Devarim? You get into that conversation if you'd like. The concept is this, that there is the foundational words of the Torah is in the ark, but then the words that explain those foundational words are sitting next to the ark. And I personally believe this is what the Levites would have been using every 7 years, so that the picture that's being painted here is, don't ever think that the Torah is hidden away from your sight. There is an aspect that is so magnificent. It is within, there's a realm of the Torah that is encased within his glory, I guess would be the way to say that. But then there's the part of the Torah that we can look at, that we can take into ourselves, and that we can then live out on a daily basis. Lastly, this disaster will come upon you in the Akarit Hayamin, because you will do what Yahweh sees as evil and provoke him by your deeds. You know, in the last days of Egypt, the Hebrews are not living a real, we could say, godly life. Okay, they've forgotten who they are. They've walked away from the Passover. They've walked away from pretty much, I see it as they walked away from everything that they were supposed to be. They came in as Hebrews. At some point in time, they became Hebrew Egyptians, and then they became Egyptian Hebrews, kind of like American Jews. And at some point they just said, well, you know, we're just Americans. We have some heritage that is really irrelevant to us, okay? And so is this, and this is just kind of laying this out in a minute here, or the plagues were affecting everyone, and then they were only affecting the Egyptians. Was this place that they went from affecting everyone to only the Egyptians, was this the moment that many of the Hebrews began to understand who they were? That their identity began to be connected, restored, and because of that identity being restored, the plagues no longer affected them like it did for others? If that is true, I pray for that day to happen for each of us. That in this day of pandemic, plandemic, whatever, you know, all the things that are going on in the world today, I pray for that day that all of a sudden that line of demarcation, the plagues are still going to happen, but we will be set apart from the plagues. May that day come soon, very soon. Shabbat Shalom, Shavua Tov, and Chag Sameach. I'll throw an extra one in there. Bezrat Hashem, God willing. See you again next week. And until then, yeah, you got it. Just like he was told to Joshua, be strong, be of good courage. Yeah, that's it. See you next week.
Yivarechecha Adonai v'yishmarecha. Ya'er Adonai panav elecha v'yichunecha. Yisa Adonai panav elecha v'yasem lecha shalom.